Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I will say that my time is not being split because it already is split. I'm the second half, and I say that because I am torn and split over this bill, and so I will be sharing my thoughts and comments over the next few minutes here. I've been asked to speak to this C11 given the Veterans Affairs Committee work on MST, military sexual trauma, in the last Parliament. I am proud to speak to this important issue, but I wish it was not necessary. During that study, the Veterans Affairs Committee heard countless terrible first-hand accounts of how terrible military sexual trauma can be and the lasting effects it can have on a person and their family. First of all, we have to solemnly thank all the survivors that came forward to bravely share their stories and pursue claims despite all of the challenges thrown in their way. Sadly, VAC claims and the process still places a considerable burden of proof on the survivors, sometimes forcing the survivors to recount their horrific stories several times, and from what I've heard, time and time again. Many witnesses shared their difficulties, delays, and ongoing barriers when seeking help or for MST-related health impacts. And this is extremely important to know. MST survivors often experience lasting mental health effects such as PTSD, depression, and substance abuse, compounded by physical health problems and challenges in interpersonal relationships. Mr. Speaker, many women came forward with heartbreaking accounts, but they had the courage. They had the courage to demand change and accountability from the system that they were in. Some of the quotes from survivors that shared their accounts with our committee I would like to share. 1, I came forward because I could not live with the weight of silence anymore. The trauma followed me home, and Veterans Affairs VAC made the process so hard that I nearly gave up. Mr. Speaker, that's not just a lone comment. Another comment, being believed matters. In the military, the burden of proof is too heavy. My entire story was put on trial again when I applied for support from Veterans Affairs. Another witness shared, there is strength in telling our stories, but it is exhausting to relive the trauma with each new bureaucratic step. We need a system that listens the first time. Another comment from a witness was, when I tried to access help, I felt isolated and invisible. Services were not designed for people like me. They didn't understand what I had lived through. Mr. Speaker, these are heartbreaking testimonies that have come forward. VAC needs to train case managers in trauma. Too often, I was confronted by disbelief or ignorance when explaining the reality and the complexity of sexual trauma. Mr. Speaker, the Veterans Affairs Committee dealt and listened to many witnesses. It was heartbreaking. This committee is doing good work, and we are also going to be hearing about veterans that have committed suicide and how we can prevent this for our veterans community. So it's not an easy committee to be on. Mr. Speaker, one comment that really hit home with me was, all I ever wanted was recognition, support, and to be treated like my experiences mattered. MST ended my career and changed my life in every way. Mr. Speaker, we need to be there for those victims during their time in service, and Mr. Speaker, after their time in service. As a father of 2 young girls and someone who has served myself, this issue hits extremely close to home. I can only hope by the time that my children are adults, parliamentarians will not still be looking at ways to fix these ongoing crises. Sadly, this bill will not do that, Mr. Speaker. First, let me be clear to anyone watching, the Liberals are not serious about this issue. If they were, they would have tabled Bill C-66 mere months before the last election, but they didn't. If they were, they would have worked to have it not die on the order paper without real debate. If they were serious, they would have listened to the experts explaining the legislation problems instead of a copy and pasting it into C-11, which we are debating today. Frankly, Mr. Speaker, Liberals can't be trusted to stop sexual assault within the CAF. They constantly chose soft-on-crime policies instead of advocating for victims. We have seen that today here in this House. Victims seem to be ignored, but those that commit the crimes, Mr. Speaker, seem to get away with it. This side of the House believes we must continue to address sexual misconduct, discrimination, racism, and other forms of harassment. All military members deserve to have a safe and respectful workplace. All victims of military sexual misconduct deserve timely justice. The Harper government accepted all recommendations from the Deschamps report to eliminate all forms of sexual harassment in the CAF. After a decade of the Liberal government and 2 more reports from Supreme Court justices, victims of military sexual misconduct are still no closer to having their cases dealt with properly. Sadly, parts of C-11 simply open the door to potential political interference and partisan appointments, Mr. Speaker. Let me point this out, or let me share. Point 1, giving increased power to the Minister of National Defence to issue guidelines with respect to prosecutions. Another point, having the Director of Military Prosecution, the Director of Defence Council Services, and the Provost Marshal General appointed by the Governor in Council. Canadians are worried about political interference for good reason. Given the wide-ranging issues with the ways the former Defence Minister Sajjan handled sexual misconduct cases in 2021. For over half a year, Justin Trudeau and Minister Sajjan continually covered up information on sexual misconduct in the Canadian Armed Forces. Trudeau's team went to great lengths to block investigations, hide the truth from Canadians. For months in 2021, he orchestrated a cover-up to hide the facts. His top aide, Katie Telford, and Minister Sajjan had direct knowledge of this sexual misconduct allegation against then Chief of Defence Staff. In a statement on the report conducted by the Status of Women Committee in 2021, Mr. Speaker, Conservative says it's become abundantly clear that there has been a lack of leadership by the Defence Minister on the issue of sexual misconduct in the Canadian Armed Forces. Despite repeated problems, including handling of sexual misconduct allegations, then Prime Minister Trudeau left the former Defence Minister Sajjan and the minister until after the election, the next election. When sexual misconduct was studied at the National Defence Committee in 2021, the Liberals filibustered for weeks and then called an election before the committee was able to produce a report. 4 Liberal MPs who participated in the filibuster are elected today. And let's be clear, Liberal political interference is not limited to national defence. They have a long and proud history of it. Mr. Speaker, we have seen time and time again how the Liberals have involved themselves in military decisions when they should have stayed out of it. Mr. Speaker, how much more time do I have? How much? 15 seconds. Mr. Speaker, this means that we, as a veteran, need to read this and go through this in committee. Thank you.
Comments. Question et commentaire. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House Leader.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Speaker, the member opposite is so wrong in so many ways, I don't know where to begin. Maybe the member should realize that when you take a look at the Arbor's 48 recommendations, the goal is to achieve success on 47 of those before the end of this year. Many of the things that this legislation is putting in place through criminal law is already being administered in part because of the government's drive to move and shift from military to the civil court process. The member is just wrong on so many points. And my question to the member is, will the Conservative brain thrust recognize that if they want to have that 48th recommendation done before the end of this year, they need to get on side? They have to allow the legislation to go to committee. This irresponsible, destructive force, better known as the Conservative Party, here on the floor of the House of Commons, is the only reason.
The Honourable Member for Moose Jaw, Lake Centre, Lanigan.
Mr. Speaker, the destructible force is this Liberal government and the way that they've treated our military and the way that they've treated our veterans. I can't believe what I've just heard. Nothing but white noise from this party. They have done nothing. They have done nothing for our military or our veterans. You should be ashamed.
Order. Through the chair. Through the chair. Questions and comments. Question et commentaire. L'Honourable Député Joliette Manawan.
The Honourable Member for Joliette. I'd like to thank the member for his speech. I'd like to ask him whether these amendments should have been made some year ago. We've seen a number of allegations that were made with little result. And we've seen that the previous government was not proactive after these allegations were made. Thank you.
Honourable Member for Moose Jaw, Lake Centre, Lanigan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I thank my colleague for his question. And I have worked with the Bloc in the Veterans Affairs Committee, and we have seen nothing but time wasting by the Liberal Party to actually do anything solid for our veterans. It's shameful, Mr. Speaker. I've seen a vet from Quebec come in to Veterans Affairs Committee with a suitcase, mind you, of claims that have never been addressed, and that's exactly what this Liberal Party does. Suitcases of claims, nothing done. It's a shame.
Questions, comments now. Member for Caribou Prince George.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I want to thank our honourable colleague, not just for his speech, but also for his service to our country. Mr. Speaker, I know this member very well, and I know that this is near and dear to him because of the time that he served on the committee. I listened to the testimonies of the victims, as I have as well too. Mr. Speaker, as a veteran, as a committee member, and as a friend and colleague to some of these victims, through you, Mr. Speaker, I want to know through our honourable colleague just how important this is to him and his friends and his colleagues, former colleagues.
Member for Moose Jaw, Lake Centre, Lanigan.
Well, I thank my colleague and my dear friend, and I probably have been a little bit heated in some of my responses today because I am passionate. I am passionate about the military. I'm passionate about how they've been neglected, and we need to actually support our military and properly equip them. But I also am passionate about our veterans that need the care, proper care after they have served and been willing to put their lives on the line. Mr. Speaker, I want to be clear. I never was in a position as a vet when I was serving to put my life on the line. I served in a small scale, but honestly, I do know people that have put their lives on the line, and they deserve better, Mr. Speaker. They deserve better.